Attorney Jack Bailey is here talking about a whole bunch of Shreveport history this week, which I am fascinated by. Specifically this morning with Jack, the economic history of our area, even more specifically over the last 30 or 40 years or so. You said something in the first segment I want you to do about a minute on. And you said, I'm a yellow dog Democrat, Republican kryptonite, but every time Donald Trump says in the arena of world trade the U.S. is getting screwed, he's absolutely right.
He's absolutely right. If you're a student of history and a student of economic history, you know that to be true. You can spout propaganda and you can spout the neoliberal line about how free trade enriches everybody, but it's a lie. It doesn't enrich the United States. It's impoverished us, and it's had horrible effects in Caddo Parish.
We were driving down the road one day going to lunch, and you just started off the top of your head. Because we'll go to lunch, Jack and I, and at some point about once a month, you drive me through Cedar Grove. And you show me where your grandparents lived, and you tell me a guy who had this business, who was a welder, had a shop in his garage, and all sorts of stuff. And it's this amazing history lesson of which I never get tired. And you one day were in the car, and you off the top of your head started running down a list of all the businesses that for whatever reason, most of them cheap labor in another country, have fled Caddo Parish, specifically Shreveport. And you kind of have that in front of you right now, don't you?
Well, you know, Bob, at one time I was able to find the U.S. government statistics from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics on all the big corporations that had manufacturing plants in Caddo, and I looked for it last night. I couldn't find it again, but over the top of my head, look, you had Gould Battery running 3 shifts a day. You had Western Electric that had 7,000 people at it. You had a company called Southern Plastics. You had Mid-Continent Steel. You had Poland. We had a very large valve plant that specialized in oil field specialty valves up in Agers. GE Transformer plant had over 600 union workers making transformers, a plant that GE shipped to China, and they've got just a few workers left out there working out to their retirement age. The glass plant was working 3 shifts a day. We had a major clothing company here that had lots of workers producing clothing, and that was before General Motors was here that produced over 3,000 jobs. And it just outside this area, you know, close by over in North Bossier, there was an IP plant. Down at Coshada, there was a Sunbeam plant that had over 200 workers at it. And so just in Caddo Parish, we had over 20,000 union line manufacturing jobs in 1980, which is before General Motors opened, that all have gone to Taiwan, Singapore, China, and Mexico. And you can't tell me that getting to buy cheap plastic stuff at Walmart is worth the effect on my community of having lost those 20,000 union line manufacturing jobs. And you know, speaking of the founder of Walmart, Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Company, revolutionized this country when he said he was going to pay all of his workers $5 a day. They said, well, why are you going to do that? He said, because who's going to buy my product? Sam Walton knew the same thing. You may remember Walmart used to have a Made in America campaign, and it was corporate policy to buy manufactured goods from American companies made by American workers. So we've done away with that. We now have NAFTA, TAFTA, the WTO. We're playing in a rigged game, and so other countries are both currency manipulators. They have state-funded companies, Airbus, that didn't exist. Airbus destroyed at least 3 American commercial aircraft manufacturers. And so here we are in Caddo Parish. What would Caddo Parish be like today if suddenly there were 20,000 union line manufacturing jobs suddenly in operation in Caddo Parish?
And it's not like these are jobs, pardon me, it's not like these are jobs that have just disappeared because of technological and because of the digital industry. These are jobs, these are factories, these are companies that uprooted. They're still in business. They're just working somewhere else.
You know, Bob, as a lawyer, I represent injured workers in workers' compensation cases. And over the past 10 years, I've had multiple clients, and one of the things that they were telling me about while I was representing them is they had been told by their companies, well, the last thing we want you to do for us is we want you to go to Mexico because that's where we're shipping the machine tools. We want you to go down there and train your replacement workers in Mexico, and if you don't do it, you don't get your severance package. So, yeah, it has really hurt us.